Our federal government continues to move Canada closer to a totalitarian dystopian nightmare, punishing Canadians and ultimately working for their own self-interests. Now, provincial governments are not that much better, funding DEI initiatives and making it so they can rule as tyrants without any accountability or pushback. Even various municipal jurisdictions prove that Canada can be woke and Marxist from top to bottom. So what's the good news? Well, the good news is that God blesses his people when they faithfully obey him, even in the midst of evil leaders. Just look at Joseph or Daniel, or essentially all of Christian history. We are in God's good hands. It's October 17th. I'm Andrew DeBartolo. That's Matt Hallick. This is Liberty Dispatch.
Hey there, and welcome back to Liberty Dispatch, where we bring you Canadian conservative news and analysis from an unapologetically Christian perspective. If you like what we do, we would just ask that you would do your part to help share it with others, that you would subscribe, rate, review, that you would hit the notification bell, that you would share it out with anybody that you could. And also, ultimately, that you go over to ldcanada.substack.com. Check out our page over there where you can become a subscriber today and get yourself some good perks while you're at it. Andrew, great to be with you again, brother. We have lots of news breaking in Canada. Most of it, as you said off the top, is bad news. But the good news is that God is sovereign and Christ is king. And we can take a lot of hope in just those things, regardless of our earthly circumstances.
And happy belated Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yes, indeed.
I hope you all ate responsibly.
Maybe not so much, but you know what? We still have tons to be thankful for, even in the midst of all the chaos, Andrew. And that's something that really stuck out to me this season, is there's so very much to be thankful for.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it. But first, question: are you a little frustrated that your advisor claims to be values-based, but still invests your money in products offered by globalist firms like BlackRock? Well, at Rocklinc Investment Partners, they practice what they preach. Their team invests exclusively in high-quality businesses with proven track records and growth, even in volatile markets, in which we are one right now. Each investment is thoroughly researched, adhering to their time-tested principles without compromise. Contact Rocklinc today at 905-631-5462 or email them at info@rocklinc.com to learn more. So our episode today, we're going to start big. We're going to focus in. We're going to start by looking at the federal government, some happenings. We're going to zoom in a little bit and examine what's happening in some provincial governments, and then get even tighter view into what's happening on municipal level. And then we're going to finish the show with a little bit of good justice and some comeuppance for a really deranged person. So that's the plan for today. And I will say at the get-go that our federal government is just the worst. They govern like tyrants. They're morally bankrupt. They continue to do harm to both Canada more broadly and Canadians in particular. The elbows down maple MAGA flip-flopping of Marx commie epitomizes the fact that he is indeed our prime chameleon, and he's devoid of any principle and any integrity. Even the Canadian Pravda Corporation, formerly known as the CBC, who gives him cover and who's given him nothing but cover, even they had to be honest about this fact. Watch this.
And deeper, the other reality is that we're probably going to have a lot of trouble with our auto industry for decades to come if this goes ahead the way it looks like it. And, you know, the awkward reality for Prime Minister Carney is he governed in campaign poetry against Donald Trump and the United States, and now he has to govern in realpolitik prose. And that prose is, we continue to need the United States. It remains indispensable to us. Your last guest was proof positive of that. Despite the appeals of overseas diversification in our trade, the United States is hours away by rail and by truck, and it still is the most lucrative market in the world. So Mr. Carney has to make that clear to Canadians. We still need Donald Trump's America.
Man, Barton looks absolutely miserable.
She is I was just about to say, she wants that man to die.
Yeah.
Because it's true. And I mean, last episode, we looked at Carney gushing over Trump. You're a transformative president. You've done this, and you're an excellent leader, and blah, 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 blah. Elbows down on the ground, Maple MAGA, no principle, no spine. And the CPC, which has had to cover for him, now they have to admit, actually, if we don't do business with the United States, we're going to be devastated. Even they have to admit it.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is what that man said in that clip is true, and it's always been true, right? Like, right. We were saying this during the whole tariff battle when it was at its pitched.
Who was really going to lose this fight?
Yes, it's so asymmetric that anybody with a brain in their skull and who is not just blindly, anti-American or just ideologically driven for the Liberals' cause could see this strategy was not going to work. That the tariff, the competing tariffs, it just ends up hurting Canadians ultimately, and B, the fact that our market is so much smaller and so dependent on the U.S. market that there was no scenario in which we could just throw off our relationship with America and then somehow not experience some serious economic ramifications.
Yeah, I remember sharing on the episode one night, my family and I, so when the tariffs were announced initially, we were sitting around the dinner table and we were talking to our kids about the tariffs and what was happening and the cost of, costs going up. Mm-hmm. And my kids said, well, what's a tariff? How does that work? I said, well, I explained it. And then I said, the truth is that we actually get so much stuff from the United States. So I said to my kids, just here we are at the table, look around. These condiments come from the United States. The plates that we're eating on, that's an American company. Our appliances, that's American company, right? Like a lot of the stuff in the kitchen right now that we're using, that we use
our car in the garage
every day.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see the effect. And so even my young children understood, hey, it's kind of a bad thing if we think that we don't need the United States, because we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the sad reality is, whatever way you want to spin it, is he was using campaign prose to go elbows up, but now he has to govern according to the realpolitik. It's like, or he was just being exceedingly manipulative to the Canadian populace and playing on their own fears and insecurities and insane biases, that he was playing that up to get elected. And now he's having a hard time living up to the inanity that he was pushing.
Which we know to be the case because they were polling. When we covered this one in an episode, that the federal government was secretly polling their elbows up campaign even before Donald Trump was elected.
Yes.
So they were just gauging how the public would respond. And I think the reason why he has to change his messaging now is because the way the general public is responding is costs are high, things are difficult. No, we actually don't like what you're doing. And so now he needs to wet finger in the air, make decisions and govern so that he kind of wins over people who might be thinking, we were duped. It's another Trudeau. So now he needs to pull it back a little bit.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I think he was really trying to do the elbows up approach. And, you saw him fly around the world and, immediately try and cozy up to a bunch his European buddies. And
we don't need the United States.
Yes.
We have other trading
We're going to find
partners.
other markets. But the fact of the matter is, everybody's trying to cut a deal with America, and they don't want to be seen as, going, stepping out of line. And because Canada is, we saw in our last program, because we compete for a lot of things, making a partnership behind the Americans' back with Canadians could, potentially raise the ire. So the calculation wasn't as simple. And honestly, the deals that Carney has been able to make have been few and far between. This so-called economic genius who was a Trump whisperer, and who was going to cut a bunch of deals and get us off the American teat. I guess they were smoking too much of what they were selling if they actually believe that. But again, as I remember, Andrew,
Carney said with pride. Carney said with pride, hey, so we have so much Canadians are investing in the United States and American companies. And I remember when he said that recently, my first thought was, hold on a second. I thought that's a bad thing. I thought we're supposed to invest in Canada. And wait a second, why is it, Mark Carney, that the majority of your investments are also in American companies?
Yeah.
So this is stuff people don't talk about.
And you were part of moving your massive company to
but he lacks, obviously, he lacks any virtue, any integrity, any moral uprightness at all, which is par for the course for him and for the rest of the Liberal Party. So speaking of lacking any moral virtue and any reasonable thought, here is Liberal MP John Paul Danko as he slanders those who are concerned, as Matt and I are, about the dozens and over 100 church burnings that have occurred in Canada over the last number of years. Listen to this clown and listen to the response of someone who's actually not an ignoramus in this exchange.
Got the real conservative A-team this afternoon. Repeated conservative conspiracy theories over and over in the House.
Such a lame
if you want to talk about real headlines, and I'm not quoting, alt-right, so-called alternative news, talking about Jewish members in my community who are
Pause it for a sec. Just pause for a sec.
Their Jewish identity in public.
This guy is an absolute clown.
Yeah. So you know what he looks like to me? He looks like a football player who's been hit in the head one too many times, and he has no idea what he's saying. He looks like a football player to me, and he probably got a little too many tackles to the old noggin. And now he is a buffoon engaged in buffoonery, and he has no idea what he's doing. That's what he looks like to me. The hair guy, he looks like that guy. He looks like that guy.
Do you think liberals need CTE to be insane, Andrew? I'm not certain.
No, but I think that's true of him.
I'm trying to understand what is the member's opposite real objection to this legislation.
Yeah, if his brain were working properly, he would know. He would know what the objection is.
Likely that what they're talking about is freedom for their members to say whatever they want without consequences. Is that the real objection? Thank you.
The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, I wish the member had spent less time working on what he thought was a zinger and more time listening to my speech, where I detailed in excruciatingly, and I will argue painful detail, real hate that is occurring against Christians, against the Jewish community. I mentioned the firebombing of synagogues, the shooting of Jewish schools. And by the way, the member should be well aware that the Jewish community has looked at this Liberal government and been absolutely ashamed to be represented by people that have cozied up with the very people who are responsible for Jew hatred in this country. So I do not take any cues from this member who wants to accuse conservatives standing up for freedom of being conspiracy theorists. He should be ashamed of that.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, what a boob. And what they're obviously pushing back against, the conservatives, is this anti-hate speech legislation that is, fraught, Andrew, from start to finish with absolute insanity that would police Canadian speech beyond any reasonable limits, and defines hate in, as we've talked about a lot, in the most vague, inane terms that would lead to some serious consequences if you fell afoul of this insane hate speech law. But Andrew, the federal government is also flip-flopping in other ways and showing again that they are useless idiots. And this is on the gun buyback program scheme. So they've wasted millions and millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to this point. And now they're showing that they are not governing according to principle, but they're blinded in just their ideology. And this comes to us from Juno News. Barely a month after rolling out their compensation pilot in Nova Scotia, the Liberals have extended their firearm amnesty for the third time in 5 years. Public Safety Canada confirmed Wednesday that the federal firearm amnesty has been extended until October 30th, 2026. This comes amid speculation that the gun buyback program could be ending altogether. So that is a good thing, Andrew. When I said they were blinded by their ideology, I mean by even going and putting this insane bill that they've tried 3 different times forward, and with no success. That's where they're blind. But at least they,
you know that they don't even. This is actually evidence that they don't believe the narrative. They're just crafting the narrative, because if all of these very dangerous, violent weapons were a plague upon Canadian well-being, they would be acting as quick as possible to get all of these guns out of the hands of Canadians to save Canadian lives. Yeah. So they don't actually believe it. If they really did believe that these guns are dangerous and they need to go away, then why do you keep saying, okay, we'll give you another year. We'll give you another year. Yeah. Like, just come for them already. But they don't believe what they're saying. They just have to push the narrative because it grants them more power and it strips us of our rights and our ability to defend ourselves. Yeah, and we must say that programs like ours and the amazing work that CCFR is doing and a bunch of these other shows at exposing the insanity of the buyback program has helped raise all of this to a profile level that has, I think, made it very, very hard for the Liberals to do exactly what they were trying to do, which was kind of, quickly enact this stuff, push this through without a lot of pushback. So big credit to those who have been shining a light on this, who have been exposing the works of evil. And I think in putting that type of pressure on our federal government, Andrew, it's created a lot of unforced errors. And I talk about Gary A. there, our friend, who was caught on the secret message talking about how bad the whole program was, how costly it's been, how it's no good, very bad, but then spinning around and continuing to push it forward. But again, this just shows the level of incompetence that we're looking at when it comes to the way that our federal government does things. So, as the previous October 30, 2025 deadline approached, a date that would have turned previously legal firearm owners into criminals, the Liberals pushed the date back another year, same way they have done with the MAID programs. Participating in the program, this is a quote, is voluntary. However, businesses, quote, accept those with required registration certificates and specific privileges on their license must dispose of or permanently deactivate their assault-style firearms before the amnesty period expires on October 30th, 2026, or risk criminal liability for illegal possession of a prohibited firearm, reads the federal government's website. True North exposed Public Safety Minister Gary Anasangries for claiming the gun buyback program was always, quote,
unquote, voluntary, though the alternative is obviously, well, imprisonment. It is also confirmed that the penalty for the illegal possession of a prohibited firearm is up to 5 years in jail. So, some sort of voluntary program. Not really. Despite the program rolling out in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, police have said that they want nothing to do with it. Quote, the province of Nova Scotia and its provincial police force are not and will not be participating. And that is actually pretty surprising, Andrew, because the reason they tried to run it in Nova Scotia is because, well, Atlantic Canada is one of their strongholds. They felt like, well, they could do that
because of the shooting too. The main reason is because of the mass shooting in Porter Peak. I'm like, if anywhere needs to ban these guns,
yes,
it's here in Nova Scotia because of Porter Peak. Even though, as we pointed out, that the weapons that were purchased by the shooter at Porter Peak were purchased in Maine, which is in the United States, and therefore this buyback does nothing to solve that problem.
Yeah, but it does, it does speak to how crass and political this propaganda campaign was, right? Mm-hmm. It is so calculated from the start to the finish to push this buyback program, so-called, that is just essentially an illegal seizing of people's legally obtained firearms. The government's totally lawless in what they're doing. But anyways, that was said by MLA Tom Taggart in a letter to constituents clarifying that the program was a deal between Ottawa and Cape Breton Regional Municipality. Alberta, Andrew, also similarly didn't want anything to do with this program. In fact, the police were instructed to ignore the confiscation order, and the Ontario Provincial Police also said they would not enforce it. So that's not very good. I mean, those are some of the biggest police departments, most important jurisdictions in Canada that are like, yeah, we're not going to play along with this insanity. So anyways, there goes our government. The new guys are the same as the old guys, and they are just as incompetent, which is maybe a good thing, Andrew, because they're trying to push all these insane, I think, lawless policies, tyrannical policies. But even in doing that, their execution is utterly bewildering and insane.
Inflation through the roof.
Food costs went up 10.6% in February.
Censorship of dissident voices, freezing of bank accounts.
Justin Trudeau invoking emergency powers against the truckers. Banks can now freeze their personal accounts, the accounts of anyone linked to the Freedom Convoy.
Digital surveillance and communism spreading.
What do we want?
Basic income!
With the basic income, and I felt a sense of security because I didn't have to worry about not going hungry, and I didn't have to worry about being kicked out of my apartment.
The government is on the verge of bankruptcy, and they're coming for your money.
Canada's federal debt increasing in real time, now surpassing $1.2 trillion. This debt is draining taxpayer dollars, with interest alone costing $54 billion this year.
It's time to break free and start saving in money they can't take from you. Since 2013, the folks at Bull Bitcoin have one mission: destroy central banking. Bull Bitcoin is the most trusted Bitcoin company in Canada. They empower you to buy, sell, and pay bills with Bitcoin. They are 100% non-custodial, which means that you always maintain full control over your Bitcoin, allowing you to reclaim your financial sovereignty and secure your wealth for the future. Their customer support will assist you throughout the whole process, helping you get your hands on the hardest money ever created. Escape their financial gulag, click on the link below, and start buying Bitcoin today.
Well, Andrew,
who's that young man with
I know you've got so much more gray hair, man. It's
so
crazy.
Much less gray hair in his beard and in his hair, but he's not as good looking. He doesn't sound as
you got a crown of glory now.
Yeah, I got a crown. I have a beard of glory as well.
Andrew, I was just, obviously that ad's a little bit old. We got to get actually. I saw Bitcoin Bull Bitcoin has a new ad that was pretty awesome. We got to see if we can coordinate that with them. But anyways, I was actually just looking at the current Canadian debt, and I think expected to reach 1.619 trillion by the end of this fiscal year.
That's not so much.
That's a lot. That's a huge percentage of our GDP.
It's not that much. It could be. I mean, it could be way worse. That's all right. That's fine.
Yeah. But with our economy stagnating, it's becoming really, really bad. And as our friends over at
Apples have been cheap lately. Apples have been cheap lately. That's been great. 67 cents a pound for Royal Gala apples. That's been, I've been enjoying.
There you go. There's a silver lining. Anyways.
And eggs have been on sale too. I've been shocked. Almost every week, somewhere's had eggs on sale. I thought eggs would never go on sale again. And here we are getting 18 eggs for $4.98. Let's go. That's amazing.
We're not always wearing a black hat here. I was going to say, though, as our friends at the Canadian Taxpayer Federation have shown us, the debt payments, the interest on the debt it's getting large. And I think it's like basically $1 billion a week or something like it. It's basically like burning down a brand new hospital after we built it every single week in a country where basically all our hospitals and infrastructure are crumbling. Yep. Anyways.
All right. Well, as bad as our federal government is, turns out that our provincial governments are also pretty terrible. Chief among them, of course, is my province of Ontario. Doug Ford, fake conservative, please don't teach me how to Dougie, has ruled basically like a tyrant and a socialist for years now. I mean, this was epitomized during the COVID era, and he actually shows no signs of easing up. This is from Juno News. Quote, since Ontario launched its equity education overhaul in 2017, programs rooted in Marxist-inspired critical race theory and other DEI practices have been embedded throughout the public education system. Government memoranda show that since 2017, hundreds of millions of dollars have flowed through special funds like the Priorities and Partnerships Fund and the Responsive Education programs. The true total may be higher once administrative and professional development costs are included, of course. Teacher training delivered under these mandates often describe education as a form of social transformation and urge staff to challenge white supremacy culture in curriculum and assessment. The programs reveal a consistent pattern of spending tied to the province's anti-racism and decolonization agenda, language closely aligned with far-left political theories. The province's Education Equity Secretariat, created in 2017 to lead what officials described as a systemic transformation, was backed by an initial commitment of over $7 million to implement the Education Equity Action Plan. We want to show you a picture.
Did they actually use the term secretariat? I mean, they're not even trying to hide the communists.
Yeah,
they're not even trying to hide it.
So we want to show you a picture of how the spending has increased year over year. And the spending, again, is the Ontario Conservative government increasing its spending on DEI initiatives. Okay,
Isn't Ontario the largest indebted sub-sovereign, Andrew?
In the world, yes, in the world.
And this is what they're spending. This is what the Conservative government is spending their money on.
Yep,
Marxism.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. So continuing, that funding launched pilot projects and board-level equity networks designed to embed culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy, education jargon for critical race theory across Ontario schools. Yeah. By 2024-25, the Ministry of Education was spending roughly $30 million per year on related equity-based programs. These include training teachers in anti-oppressive and culturally relevant pedagogy, subsidizing board-level human rights and equity advisors, and supporting de-streamed grade 9 classrooms designed to eliminate what the ministry calls systemic bias in academic placement. The government has also created specialized funding streams based on race and identity, The graduation coach program for Black students, launched as a small pilot in 2019, has grown to $5.47 million annually. The program places staff hired for their lived experience to mentor Black students and dismantle systemic barriers. I just want to say, I know a lot of people, so I'm obviously very critical of Doug Ford. I think he's a terrible premier. I think
he's awful.
He's a complete fake conservative, and he's done tremendous harm to Ontario. So I ain't got no love for Doug Ford. However, what I find curious is that the same people who are obviously more left-leaning because they think we need to spend more money on state-funded education, right? The same people who bemoan all the money that's being cut from teachers and teachers' assistants and overcrowded classrooms, even though the whole system is complete bonkers and you should pull your kids out of state-funded education if you love them and if you're a good parent, because if you don't and you're not. But whatever, it's my opinion. But what I find crazy is that the same people who are so upset at how much money is not being spent on the Ministry of Education probably have no problem with all the money that's being wasted on these DEI initiatives. Mm-hmm. And it is such a massive slice of delicious, ironic chocolate cake, because the same funding that they support because they're so woke is part of the reason why I'm sure that money isn't going toward other things that they deem to be worthwhile and beneficial. And they're essentially destroying themselves, which again is more evidence that the system needs to burn to the ground because it's not good at all for anyone. But I just find it's interesting to me that they love these programs, but at the same time are so mad at Doug Ford for cutting money. Well, maybe if you didn't spend money on the Black coach program thing, maybe you would be able to have more teachers or be able to have more teachers' assistants. But maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that they're wasting so much money on all this woke nonsense because it continues to basically
collapse
hollow up
its
foundations, of the provincial education system, which is good. We can hopefully see its timely demise.
Yeah, in one sense, it's like it feels a little bit silly to complain about the public education schools as teaching Marxism when they are Marxism and socialism. But I mean, it's really, really important. We're going to link in. I'll be sure to put this in the show description. If you want to know more about this, if you want to study it up on it, because what you were just reading there from Juno News is just full of very, very blatant communist, like Marxist buzzwords. And if you want to understand those buzzwords, I would highly suggest you get The Marxification of Education by James Lindsay, because he goes into Paulo Freire's basically Marxification of education and how that took over schools in North America. So that's what you're seeing in conservative jurisdictions all over the country, Andrew. You see it, yeah, believe it or not, in Ontario, believe it or not, in Alberta. And things are not better on the East Coast, obviously. Apparently, the Nova Scotia government is above criticism and complaint from the people of Nova Scotia. This is from the Canadian Pravda Corporation, obviously, the CBC. But anyways, Nova Scotia residents can no longer file complaints about their municipal elected officials. A move one advocate calls, quote, dangerously undemocratic. You think? Last Tuesday, the province made changes to the municipal code of conduct it said stem from feedback from municipalities. Those changes included a clause stating that a complaint, quote, may only be made by a council member. Wow. In the municipality where the subject of the complaint is also a council member. That is okay. Now our government servants are above complaint. Sounds like servants. Pam Mood, president of Nova Scotia, easy for me to say, Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, and mayor of the town of Yarmouth, said a few municipalities have reported a flood of complaints since the province-wide code went into effect last year. Mood said the province needs a standard definition for frivolous or vexatious complaints, so all independent investigators handling municipal complaints are on the same page. Quote, "It may not always be this way, but for now, I think it was a brilliant move on the province to say, you know what? If we're going to get this right, we need to take a pause and see where we go," Mood said on Wednesday. Quote, "The most important thing is to make sure the code is used in a manner that it was intended." Mood said she did not have any specific examples about complaints that were, in her words, frivolous, but said in general that they could be based on someone's personal animosity towards a counselor for using a word they don't like or because of how the counselor voted on an issue. Well, I mean, people should be able to criticize their federal representatives for how they vote. Anyways, the municipal representatives, when asked how many municipalities reported issues about code complaints to the Federation, Mood said about 6. But she said it wouldn't matter if it were, quote, just 1 or if there were 49. If something needs to be looked at, it needs to be looked at. So, Andrew, how do we make sense of this? Because I do think this, especially with left of center or just blatantly leftists, I have been hearing this rhetoric more and more, right? That any complaint against government officials amounts to, a personal attack on the individual. And that is the constant narrative that is being drummed up by those on the left wing, is that, it's so dangerous to be an elected official. It's so dangerous to be a council person. We're under attack because people are holding us account and holding our feet over the fire for the things that we do as their representatives over and over and over again. So this seems like the most extreme thing that you could possibly do, and basically say to parents, well, we don't really care. We're going to make you pay taxes, and we don't really care what you have to say on any of this.
I'm sure this has nothing to do as well with the pilot project for the gun buyback program also happening in Nova Scotia, and citizens, I'm sure, complaining to their MPs and MPPs. I'm sure this is completely unrelated to that as well, that people are saying, we don't support this. You can't vote for this. Do you support this? Do you agree with this? The taking of our weapons, really? So I'm sure that this is what this is a tyrant's play. We can't be questioned. We can't have dissent. Mm-hmm. And not even the act of dissenting. It's not enough, right? This is straight out of 1984. It's not enough to say we will secretly act against the state. Simply voicing opposition and saying, I don't like it, they're wrong, this is bad, even that is punishable with re-education when Big Brother's in charge. That's what this is.
And this is the reason that countries have freedom of speech and open elections and freedom of the press and stuff, is for this purpose. It's to complain and exercise grievances against their elected representatives. We are slowly or quickly, perhaps, moving towards this sort of divine right of kings understanding of our government officials. And this is at the same time, Andrew, I think, the beautifully juxtaposed that we're seeing just blatant, unbelievable insanity and just incompetence from our government officials in just about every level of government.
Yeah.
Remember when Canada was a land of boundless promise, where families built thriving communities on faith, freedom, and hard work? A time when you leave your doors unlocked, neighbors were friends, and we sang our anthem with pride. Canada was respected worldwide, a rugged land full of resolute and virtuous people. We were builders forging farms from the untamed wilderness, raising strong families and forging our destiny. But now a shadow has fallen over our great nation. Creeping tyranny, the erosion of God-given rights, and cultural division have dimmed that bright promise. We yearn to reclaim what made us a true north, strong and free. We saw Canada's spirit cracking and wanted to do something. With Resistance Coffee Company, we saw an opportunity to build something bigger. Our nation was forged in the fires of adversity, and we saw an opportunity to help lay a foundation for a bright future, rebuild through that same commitment to hard work, courage, and the principles that made our nation great. Our mission is not just about crafting excellent coffee. It's about fueling everyday Canadians to stand resolute against the tide and rebuild the Canada we love. Our goal is to inspire a movement that rebuilds Canada on the bedrock of faith, freedom, and responsibility. Each sip strengthens the resolve to reclaim our nation's proud legacy. We stand for freedom, hard work, human dignity, the rule of law, personal responsibility, the traditional family, the supremacy of God, and a resolute hope for our future. These aren't fringe values. These are the core truths that build Canada. We source specialty grade premium beans and precision roast them fresh for every batch to ensure delicious flavor in every cup. From vibrant light roasts to bold dark blends, each cup is meticulously and carefully crafted, delivering unmatched quality. As a family-run Canadian company, we serve thousands with coffee and content as bold as our mission.
So, let's bring this home here.
Yes, let's.
The federal government, terrible. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Various, if not all, provincial governments, also terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's focus in. Municipal governments, also bad. Especially in places and school boards like in Toronto, which is the belly of the beast, a modern day Babylon. You should get out of Toronto. If you're a believer and you live in Toronto, you should leave already. I don't know what you're still doing there, but you should go. This is from Juno News. Quote, a Toronto high school broadcast "O Canada" in Arabic on the morning of the second anniversary of the Hamas October 7 terrorist attack on Israel that left more than 1,200 people dead. Earl Haig Secondary School, one of the Toronto District School Board's largest high schools, played the Arabic version of the anthem over the PA system for all students and staff to hear. A source at the school confirmed the incident in an interview with True North, describing it as a surprise to most of us. They have a CD that includes "O Canada" in English, French, Métis, Farsi, and Arabic, the source said. Today, they decided to play the Arabic one. After the anthem, the principal made a short address to the students. He said it was a tough day for our community and encouraged students to reach out to friends if they need support, the source explained. He didn't mention October 7 specifically. According to the source, the decision about which version of the anthem to play is made by two students under the supervision of a teacher advisor. Under Ontario's Education Act, the schools are required to play the national anthem in one or both of Canada's official languages, English or French. The source told True North they believe that the use of another language could be a technical violation of that rule. If they play it in Arabic or any other language, that might actually go against the act, they said. This is the same thing as that teacher that forced her students to watch the Charlie Kirk assassination over and over again. I mean, read the room. On October 7th, it was...
Well, it's not a failure to read the room. I think it's a deliberate poking in the eye. It's like deliberate provocation.
Right. Yes, but in the sense that on October 7th, Muslim terrorists, and by Muslim terrorists, I mean Muslims who actually read and believe the Quran accurately and do what it actually says in context and are true to their historic beliefs long established by their illiterate pedophile, warmongering, false prophet some 1400
Who was
years
also
ago.
probably gay. He was probably bisexual too. Just there's some really weird things about angels.
Yeah,
and beautiful
he
men
would. Well,
and,
he was so. I mean, if you have little ones, you may want to pause
He's
and come back.
Bad guy.
He was fond on sucking on the tongues of little boys and would talk about these instances of being covered in semen. This was the warmongering pedophile leader, and so essentially, and he was also brutally violent and had insatiable bloodlust. So it's no surprise that Hamas, true to what the Quran teaches, are just like their leader. Anyways, that's what happened on October 7th. Someone's going to put a fatwa on me. I know. This is... Anyways.
Yeah. I don't know that guy. I don't know it. I don't know this guy.
So October 7th was true Islamists basically slaughtering innocent Jewish people. So the fact that you would play it in Arabic as opposed to, I don't know, Yiddish or Hebrew... It really is absolutely disgusting. It's so disgusting.
To English. School shouldn't be. Anyways, it's
I'm even okay with I'm even okay with the Frenchy half and half. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Right, I'm fine with that as long as you get back to the English at the end. That works.
Yeah. Anyways, that's fine because that's actually rooted in historical Canadiana. But yeah, this I mean, this stuff is just so gross. Speaking of so gross, Andrew, how about Jonathan Yaniv? Is that how you say it? Yaniv?
Yeah, he is.
We've talked about it.
He's gross.
He is the worst. Yeah. Maybe the worst person, like legitimately.
He's up there.
But you probably know him as Jessica, I guess, because that's what he goes by. But anyways, here's a little good news, Andrew. Is this very bad, evil man? There was a little bit of justice for this guy who's pretending to be a woman and finds himself in a bit of hot water because, well, he just does a lot of just blatantly evil, awful things. But anyways, let's get into the story from the Western Standard. Calgary police have reportedly charged Jessica Yaniv. Yeah, that's not his name. Anyways, with a criminal harassment, and an Alberta-wide warrant has allegedly been issued for his arrest. The complaint. Why is the Western Andrew? What's going on? Why is the Western Standard using those? Come on.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Come on. What's going on here? Come on.
I don't know.
What's going on here, Western Standard? Anyways, the complaint in the case says they are attempting to confirm whether the warrant extends into British Columbia. Jessica Yaniv, also known as Jessica Simpson, is a British Columbia resident who gained national attentions for a series of controversial legal actions and criminal cases over the past several years. Yaniv, I don't know how to say it, first became known after filing multiple complaints with the BC Human Rights Tribunal, that haunt of scum and villainy, against an esthetician who...
Hold on. I just want to jump in. Yeah. Well, I want to... Here's what the story is. This is a man.
Yes.
Okay. Pretending to be a woman, walking into some sort of spa, saying to some much younger woman, "Can you please wax my balls?"
Yes.
And she said, no,
no,
because you're a man and I'm a woman.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Yaniv then decided to take the spa owner and file a complaint with the BC Human Rights Tribunal.
Yeah,
that's who this person.
And my understanding is he went in for a Brazilian.
Right,
wax.
that's what I mean. Yeah, he went in for take care of my stuff down there.
And
and then the woman said, "No,
you ain't no lady." That's what happened.
Well, you don't have to You don't have to lift the dress to know
Well,
that.
no, I mean,
if you look at a picture of him,
you never have to look that close.
Yeah. The resemblance is non-existent. They're both human beings. Then they have eyes.
Yeah,
that's basically as far as it goes.
Although, I mean, Yaniv is kind of a demoniac.
Gross.
Yeah. Anyways, those cases, understandably, drew significant public scrutiny and were ultimately dismissed because even our crazy country can see,
for now at least.
Yeah, for now, that's right. Yaniv was above his time, or before his time. In 2019, Yaniv was charged with possession of a prohibited weapon after displaying a taser on a live stream. That seems a little frivolous. Anyways, Yaniv later received a conditional discharge. Over the years, Yaniv has been involved in several other police investigations and court matters, including allegations of mischief and making threats, which have contributed to a long-running record of public controversy. As of now, Calgary police have not issued any public statement confirming the criminal harassment charge or the existence of a warrant, no court records have been released verifying that an Alberta-wide warrant has been entered into the provincial or national system. The complaint maintains that such a warrant has been issued and is waiting clarification on whether it will be recognized by police in British Columbia. So there you go. Alberta says, get out of here. Wait, is it Jonathan? That's the real name? Yeah, Jonathan.
Jonathan Yaniv.
Yeah.
It's amazing how he's been charged. It's amazing how he is conditional discharge for having a taser and threatening to use it as well, and also engaged in all sorts of mischief. But I bet he didn't have to undergo the longest mischief trial in the history, and the Crown was certainly not seeking 8 years for him to be in prison.
Yeah. And even after, as we've seen,
person that's done damage.
Yeah, we've seen. I mean, I think he's assaulted people. He's like broken.
Yeah, there was a video. We covered it when it came out. There was a video where he was in some sort of thrift store or antique store.
Yeah,
and he had his service animal with him. And with the owner of the store, an elderly gentleman, came up to him to approach him. I think to ask legitimately, you can't have your pet here. Where's the proof, the documentation that it's a service pet. And he was being belligerent, and then he pushed the older man and assaulted the store owner. That's who this person is.
Yeah, I mean, so there's our 2-tier justice system at work. Is if you're a demoniac trans weirdo, you can cause all sorts of mischief, have long years worth rap sheets of just being a total utter menace to society, but you kind of just we give you the soft hand of the law. But if you're a freedom fighter who inspires millions of Canadians to the largest peaceful protest over just blatantly tyrannical draconian lockdowns, and ultimately that resulted in the government doing like totally unbelievably unconstitutional things, then you have to go to jail, according to our Crown, for 7 to 8 years. And even our Canadian law system recognized that absurdity. So we can be thankful for that. But Andrew, things aren't good in Canada. From start to finish, we're seeing that from top to bottom, there's a lot of bad going on in our nation. But give us some hope as we close off for today.
Well, it's nothing lengthy, it's nothing new, and it's what I said at the onset, that we have in the scriptures and even in church history in the last 2,000 years, what we have is overwhelming evidence that when God's people are faithful and obedient, even when it's costly, when they do what he requires of them, when they work hard, when they build, when they engage, God blesses them. Like that's, and that doesn't mean it's necessarily easy and pain free, but God absolutely blesses his people, and he blesses them with real success. And real success looks like lives changed by the gospel. Real success looks like the building of culture that lasts and that pervades even after an existing culture has crumbled to the ground. And success looks like discipling our kids, and it looks like peace, and it looks like joy, and it looks like fruitfulness, and it looks like flourishing. So God, even in the midst of difficulty, even in the midst of tyrants, even in the midst of suffering and persecution, if God's people are faithful, if we obey him, we do what he requires in the little things and the big things, and we pursue him, and we do the kinds of things that we've been talking about for years now, being committed to serving and edifying your local church, raising your kids well, engaging in the culture, starting businesses, gospel proclamation, God will bless it. I mean, Canada continues to go down the toilet. That's I hate to break it to everyone. And I'm not a pessimistic guy. I just have eyeballs and a brain that functions at, above dead capacity, and observing what's happening. It looks like, more broadly speaking, culturally, economically, in our institutions, Canada is nosediving into collapse. But I'm not worried. I'm not scared. I'm not concerned, because this has happened many times over in history, that nations, because of their rejection of God, will come under the judgment of God, and they will crumble, and God's people will be blessed, and they will flourish, and they will build, and they will thrive, and the church will continue to grow, and God's kingdom will expand, and the beast won't be able to overcome the bride of Christ. So that's the good news. The good news is, if we're faithful, God will bless us, and we will be able to be a part of something wonderful. And even if things around us fall apart, that's okay, because God is gracious to hold our lives together and give us everything we need to do what he's commanded us to do. So we can be very encouraged by that.
Absolutely. And I think, it'll be interesting to see, Andrew, what's going to plummet first and what's plummeting faster, Carney's approval ratings or the Canadian economy. That is the race, unfortunately, that's being run right now. But never a dull time in Canada. And as we say, it's the perfect time to build your families, your church, and to do the things that you have to do to maintain your freedom, even amidst all the insanity, because it's for freedom that Christ has set you free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Until next time, everybody, God bless.
Liberty Dispatch has been brought to you by SDG Media. If you want to stay in touch with us and all things Liberty Dispatch, join our email list, or support the show, head over to ldcanada.substack.com.